And just like that, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show here on, well, Game Time TV. Rachel Dale joined by Red Petty as we welcome you to the weekly ritual that is the Ultimate Hockey Show. I'm Michael Dale, joined as always by Red Petty. Good evening, Red. How are you?
Very good, Michael. How about you?
Very good, very good. I made some observations. Thought I made a really good observation, and then I remembered watching back our last shows, but you kind of made this observation a couple weeks ago, so I was kind
What
of a
was
little
that?
bit disappointed.
What was
But
that?
we'll get into that a little bit. I think when we talked about the second round,
Okay.
um, personal preferences, I think this might be the best second, third, and Stanley Cup final we've had in recent memory. Just given the teams that are left, but we can discuss that another time or two from now. We have some big news out of Winnipeg that we want to touch on. We will touch on that as the evening goes on. The first sort of storyline, if you will, is that the Winnipeg Jets have been eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Actually, before we mention that, we will have the draft lottery on during the show, like not live stream, but I will keep my eye on the draft lottery. So before we get off, we will know who wins the draft lottery tonight from the National Hockey League. It's other the teams that didn't make the playoffs have their Stanley Cup tonight in the form of the rights to draft Madeline Celebrini. So that being said, or any other player of their choosing.
Right. Hang on though. But just to remind people, who right now ended up in last place that they have the very best
San
odds?
Jose. San Jose.
It's San Jose. Okay. And then Anaheim
So I can
or Ottawa.
pull this
I
up
thought
as
it would
we're
be,
talking.
I think it's Ottawa maybe. But okay, but San Jose was the worst. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna pull this up here right now. While you're asking me, we are talking about this. Yeah, going backwards, it's San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, Columbus, Minnesota, Arizona, Ottawa. I gotta be careful here. Kraken, Seattle, of course. Calgary, New Jersey, Buffalo.
Oh,
Why
wow.
did I stop there? That is the line uh, for the first overall pick. You can only jump a maximum of 10 spots if you win the lottery. So, in essence, only teams in the bottom 10 can win the draft lottery and have a chance at the number one overall pick.
Oh, I see. Oh, so if you're the 11th worst team in the league this last year, you're not in the running for getting first overall.
So this would be as an example, um, this would be Philadelphia, Minnesota,
Yep.
Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Detroit. Yeah.
Right. So if Detroit wins, because they were team number 17, they were the last team eliminated. So they're 17th overall. If they win the lottery,
They would move to number
they're
7.
15. They can only move up to 5. They can only move up 10 spots.
Yes, up 10 spots.
Okay, so then because they're the 15th worst.
Right.
So that means they can move up, or 16th worst. So they can move up 10 spots maximum. Okay.
Right. Right. So we'll keep an eye on that tonight. It does get going in about 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
we have 20 minutes to discuss the big news of the week in Winnipeg, or maybe not so big news, depending on how you feel about this. The Winnipeg Jets have been eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, which I don't think is a surprise if you watched our show last week. I don't think you and I had a 3-1 comeback in the cards for them. But we found out yesterday morning that head coach Rick Bowness announced retirement after 38 years of coaching. Most games ever coached in the National Hockey League. Interesting story, but he was a player, then went from straight from being a player to an assistant with the Winnipeg Jets, and then finished his career off with the Jets. Had some stops in between, which included Vancouver, Dallas, Tampa, just to name a couple. Those are his more predominant stops.
Okay.
The Rit Bonus Tour around the NHL. So I'm gonna phrase this, I guess, one of two ways for you, Rit. I don't know where you want to go with this. One, the season's over. Two, coach retires. Where do you want to take this?
Well, I don't know. Like, actually, I was listening a little bit to it's a really interesting podcast. There's some highlights of the Ray and Dregs. So it's Ray Ferraro
Yep.
and
Yeah.
Aaron Dregs. And they talk just about a whole bunch of things. It's just the two of them talking. It's not really an interview. It's just like us, just chatting back and forth about subject matter. And Darren Drager is one of the insiders, so he has really good relationships with a lot of the players, a lot of the coaches, a lot of the general managers, the inside people. And Ray Ferraro, because he's a former player, he understands how the game is played. He understands the dressing room. He understands the challenges of players. Because he's a broadcaster too. I think he's a color guy, right? Yeah, so he understands, and he has a chance to talk to a lot of the players. So when they talk, it's very interesting because they're not just speculating. Even though they're speculating, they know a lot more than you and I or a lot of other people. And Ray Ferraro said something today about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think it applies to the Winnipeg Jets too. He says, this team does not work. That was Ray Ferraro's line. And then you hear him say that, you think like, oh, they don't work hard, like they don't try, they don't put in effort. And he said, no, I'm not saying they don't work as in they don't put in effort. This team, as constructed, is incapable of winning in the playoffs. And that's in essence what he's saying, is that they score all these goals during the regular season, and then the playoffs come and they score one goal, one game, 2 goals, one game, 1 goal, another game. Marner goes missing. Austin Matthews is injured. If Austin Matthews and Marner are missing in action or injured, Tavares, maybe Nylander, there's not enough supplementary scoring. And so the team, as constructed, does not work in the playoffs. And I would say it's the same thing for Winnipeg. I mean, we've talked about this around about a million ways to Sunday. Look at the 8 teams that are remaining: New York, Carolina, Florida, and Boston. Let's just look at those 4 teams in the East. They do not have any defenseman on their team that is under 6 feet and under 180 pounds or 185 pounds. They just don't, because those defensemen get pushed around. Now, you can have one. You can maybe have one guy in your team, like a Morrissey, and then he can play big if he plays with a partner who's a large and tough guy. But the Jets have too many small defensemen. They get pushed around too easy in the front of the net. They give up too many rebound goals. They give up too much space in front of the net in the playoffs, too many bang-in chances and tips, too many screenshots for but they don't clear the front of the net. And that all comes down to not being big enough and not being able to play playoff hockey. And that's the Jets. And we've said it over and over again. It's the way they're constructed. They will do well in the regular season. They'll make everybody happy. They'll get a playoff spot, and then they'll get blitzed in the playoffs because they cannot play playoff hockey. They do.
I think we saw that.
What's that?
We saw that with the inability to box on some of the deflections.
All of that, like clearing the front of the net, like not allowing Avalanche to get multiple chances to score. Like the way they are constructed is not going to work in the playoffs. And the sad part is, and this is the sad reality, because I know you talked about it and you mentioned it to me, and it's true. There's no pick your guy. There's no Chris Tanev, Jacob Trouba, Josh
Tyler Myers.
Forget about Tyler Myers. That's a mirage. That's he's on the third pairing. That's whatever. But he's a big guy. At least he can push guys out of the way. But I'm just saying, there's no big, burly, tough defensemen in the Jets system that are up and coming.
Oh yeah.
And their forwards, we have too many small forwards, too many and we're not fast enough, and we're not gritty enough. But for me, the biggest thing, I could almost live with the forward system the way it is, but it has to be complemented being way bigger and tougher on the back end. And they're not. And you could see it every time the playoffs comes around. Last year with Vegas, they get pushed around. They get pushed around by Vegas because they can't go to the net because Vegas pushes on away. There's no chances. There's no space in the front of the net. They get no rebound shots, no rebound goals, or hardly ever. And alternatively, we don't clear the front of the net and give Vegas too many chances and too many of the high quality scoring.
And Rhett, I think you would agree with me that when we went to the conference final that one year, we had big guys on the back end like Sherratt, Byfuglien, Myers,
Trouba. Correct. Kulikov. The only little guy in there was Morrissey. One. That's fine. One is fine. We have Morrissey, DeMello, Pionk. I wouldn't call Schmidt is not big. The only big defensemen are Stanley whenever he plays, Samberg, and Dylan. That's it. You can't. And I would argue Samberg is a good defenseman, but he's not a tough guy. He's a big defense, but he's not a tough. He's not whatever. He's a good third pairing guy with somebody else, but maybe with Dylan and Samberg are a good third pairing. But who are those three guys with Morrissey? Who plays with Morrissey in the first pairing? Who plays in the second?
DeMello. Well, right now.
Right now. But who used to? Trouba.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need a big, tough monster guy. I'm not, and I like these players. Listen, I like the Jets. I love watching them. They were great this year. They're fourth best team in the league. But you have to look at the realities. How can a team with the fourth best record during the regular season and the best goals against average or goals against in an 82 game schedule then look like they vanish and just look like a box of kitty litter in the first round of the playoffs? I mean, that's the reality. And why is that? It's not that they had injuries out of their yin yang and all that. No, they didn't. No. Everybody was in the lineup.
Well, except for Morgan Barron.
Okay, Morgan Barron's a fourth line plugger. You take out Morgan Barron.
But I would argue, just like what you said, Morgan Barron is interchangeable on that fourth line whenever they decide. I don't know. My question, it's quite simply, where do we go from here?
Well, the first thing I think is
and maybe tie this into the broader coaching.
It's the head coach. Well, they need a head coach. So once you get a head coach, and I think that's where Cheveldayoff and Chipman and Huizenga are going to talk with whoever's going to come in here. What kind of a team is good? To me, the only thing they should be talking about is what kind of a team do we need in here to have success in the playoffs? You don't need to win the regular season. You don't need to win the President's Trophy. You don't need to win the Jennings. You need to just get a ticket into the dance hall. How you dance once you get in, that's all that matters. You just got to get invited into the big room to dance with everybody else. Like, look at the 8 teams that are in this now. Rangers, Hurricane, Panthers, Bruins, all big defensemen and play a playoff style hockey, grinding pucks to the net, banging it in. Dallas, Colorado, and Edmonton are the exception, but Vancouver and Dallas, same thing. Big defensemen, tough, hard to play against. Colorado and Edmonton, okay, they play more of an up-tempo game. It's going to be interesting to see what the Avalanche do against Dallas. I know we're going to talk about that later, and what Edmonton is able to do against Vancouver. But in general, 6 out of the 8 teams that are left in the playoffs now are big, tough, back-end teams. And that will ring true as we move forward. The team that wins is going to be another big, rough, tough team. And the Jets are not.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, where do the Jets go from here? Because I don't think it's as simple as moving a guy like Nikolai Ehlers out for a big defenseman that solves your problem. To me, it seems to be a fundamental problem of you don't even have the pieces in-house, the pieces that you need to acquire are going to cost you an arm and a leg and don't grow on trees. So are we just stuck in the mushy middle?
It depends. It depends okay, it depends. Who's the coach going to be? I mean, I've heard names thrown around. It could be Scott Arniel. I think Scott Arniel could be a good head coach. He filled in
Sure.
for
We
Rick
we, we
Bowness.
saw that for the month that Bonus was gone.
Yeah. And the other thing is I've heard rumors could be Craig Berube.
Fair enough.
Is John Tortorella still in Philadelphia, or did he get let
Yes.
go?
Yep. No, he's coming back.
Okay, but maybe a Craig Berube, a no nonsense guy. The Jets need to find somebody, whoever their head coach is. My mind is you either get something like a Craig Berube, a proven guy who's won the Stanley Cup, or you do something like what the Oilers did. They go and they get a guy from junior hockey, like
Yeah. Chris
Malbloff,
Knobloch. Yeah.
and you bring in a younger guy who's just got a new ideas. And so I'm not always excited about the retreads. I know we've done that. We did that with Rick Bowness and Paul Maurice, but maybe it's time to give a young guy a chance. I don't know. But whoever they bring in, to me, the only thing that matters, if I'm the head coach, if I'm applying for that job, I'm saying, what are we doing as a team to make sure we have success in the playoffs? And if I'm Heisinger and Cheveldayoff, I'm asking the head coach, what do we do with this team to have success in the playoffs? It's the only thing that matters.
Is that something you would ask a candidate in an interview prior to even?
Sure. Because I think some head coaches would say your team is too soft. That's what I would say. And I'm not a hockey coach. I know about hockey. You and I have a radio show. We talk once a week about hockey. I could tell by looking at it. I mean, I don't have to be a hockey expert with all the X's and O's. I mean, I know how the game is played. I don't know X's and O's. I know how to play defense. But I'm just saying, you look at what the Jets did all year long, and then they have 5 games in the playoffs. They played completely differently. The Avalanche ran roughshod over them. They could not keep up with their speed. They could not keep up with their forecheck. The Jets had the Avalanche impose their will completely on the Jets. The only reason the Jets
and to be honest, if it wasn't 5 minutes longer, if the game wasn't 5 minutes longer in game 1, we might be looking at a sweep.
Correct. The only reason the Jets won is because Georgiev was terrible in that first game.
Yeah. So your thoughts? Is it Scott Arniel, the front runner here?
I might give Scott Arniel a chance. I don't know. But if I'm Scott Arniel, I might go back and say, yeah, but this makeup of this team is not good. Like how many first round
so if that's the team,
you need to see this. Look, in Toronto, they're talking about trading Mitch Marner. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to because he has a no trade clause. But you gotta break up that core. You gotta bring in somebody else. And I think for the Jets, if you're asking me, I don't know if they're going to keep Toffoli and Monahan. I'd like them to keep.
I don't personally.
I think Toffoli is too slow. You just saw in the playoffs, he can't keep up anymore. He's aged. He's 31, 32. He's so slow. He can't skate. He scores a goal once in a while on the power play, but he can't keep up in today's game. But you know what? Maybe the Jets have to do something. Maybe they have to take Kyle Connor and say, you know what? We want a number 1 pairing guy with Morrissey, and we're going to trade away Kyle Connor for a big right shooting defenseman, a number 1 guy from another team. That's the only way you're going to change this. You're not going to change it by like adding in a free agent here and a free agent there, somebody who just, okay, they can't sign anywhere else. Okay, I'll sign in Winnipeg because I can't find another place to play.
Yeah. So, and then you basically did the straps at the bargain bid because of it.
Yeah. But again, I don't know. Maybe there's a way for them to still change their makeup without having to change everything. Like in my mind, I know people are going to think I'm nuts, but to me, Logan Stanley has to play regularly. I know he's slow.
Absolutely.
He's not going to get to be an NHL player unless he plays regularly. Put him on the third pairing with Dylan Samberg. Forget about Schmidt. Say goodbye to him. Put him on the third pairing with Schmidt.
How do you do that? He's still under contract next year. Is he your 7th? Nate Schmidt is still under contract next year. Is he your 7th defenseman then?
Buy him out. buy him out.
True North hates to do that.
What's that?
True North hates to do that, and you know that.
Well, they shouldn't have signed him. Why are you signing another guy who's like every other defenseman we have? A Schmidt is like a Morrissey, like a Heinola, like a Pionk, small and little, and has great offensive ability, great puck mover, can pass the puck great, but gets pushed around in the playoffs. How many of those guys do you want?
Here's my thing, okay? This is going to sound really, really bad, but it's going to be the blunt truth. The Jets view Heinola as an option. In my world, in my line of thinking, I don't think you can have a hockey team that has Neil Pionk and Billy Heinola on the same team.
I agree. If you're going to keep Morrissey and he's your guy, which is fine, and you want Heinola now to come up, and I think you do, to me, you have to trade Pionk. You have to. You can't have Pionk, Heinola, and Morrissey in your lineup. You can't. It's
and I think by extension your Kyle Connor discussion, or even Nick Ehlers if you want, because he's got one more year on his contract this year coming up. Maybe that's an avenue that you look at. I'm just really intrigued about what's going to happen, because yes, I saw growth, but this year to last year in particular, but now with Bowness retiring, to me, I think it just leaves more questions than answers. And I think if you move on from Kyle Connor, you open up a spot for a Brad Lambert or Nikita Chibrikov. And, hey, injecting some youth into the lineup. Look at what that's done to Dallas. Those center Wyatt Johnson looks pretty good at 20 years old.
But here's the thing. Wyatt Johnson, he's a little guy, but you know what? He's like a Martin St. Louis. He's little, but he's gritty, and he goes to dirty areas to get goals. He goes to the front of the net. He's not soft. He doesn't go on the edges, and as soon as somebody pushes him, he goes down like Ehlers and flops around. Yeah, he gets a lot of penalties. Why not push through? Why not go hard to the net every time? Like, I agree with you. But Michael, here's another thing. Mark my words about this. When the draft comes around, the Jets look at all the guys that they have in the lineup or in the minors and in junior and college that are regular come up. Rutger McGorty, Colby Barlow, Chaz Lucius, Lambert, Ilya Heinola, Chibrikov. Like, there's only one defenseman there, and he's a little guy. And then they have that other defenseman. They have a Russian defenseman, don't they? Like, I forget his name, but anyway, he's not big, because I was at a Moose game. He didn't look big. Words, the Jets, they do not have a first round pick this year, right? Because they traded it away.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be an early second rounder. We'll find out tonight.
Okay.
Based on where Montreal lands.
The Jets in the second, third, and fourth round, mark my words, they will pick the best big, tough defenseman. Guaranteed. I guarantee you watch. That is my prediction. They're not picking some 5'10" Finnish guy who scores 50 goals in the Finnish league. No. They're going to pick some kid from the Ontario Hockey League or the Western Hockey League, right-hand shot, or from college hockey in the States. Big right-hand shot, 6'3", 220 pounds or 210 pounds with lots of muscle to add. That's who they're picking. You watch. Because I don't know what else. You can't keep picking little kid, little Gottensvacks, I want to say, little garden gnomes. You can't. And if you're going to pick little guys, you're going to pick guys like Wyatt Johnson that are tough as nails. Look at all those guys that score. Look at that kid from the Bruins. Hasn't scored a playoff goal at all. He scored beautiful goal. Where are the Jets rookies? These guys that come up, and do you think Chibrikov or Lambert could score a goal like that in the playoffs? I don't know. Maybe. But the Jets don't pick guys like that. They don't pick guys that play well in the playoffs. We need tough, hard-nosed. I don't want to draft any more Europeans. I'm sorry. I know I sound like Don Cherry, but look at all the guys that are having success right now in the playoffs. They're all North American kids.
Yeah. Yep. And let alone now you need to find a way to get the guys over here, not to be a period of years, and given the way this core is developed, I don't think you have years. I think you're running out of time. Um,
Yep. And anybody
and
you
then
pick in the
and then the
second
other
round
thing
as a
is
defenseman is
you
not going to be playing in the next 2 years, anyways.
well, yeah, and then you promised Hellebuck and Shifley you'd be all in every year, so doing a rebuild kind of bats off your word on in that regard. So
Yeah, well, they were all in. Where were Shifley and Hellebuck in the playoffs this year? That would be my question.
yeah, yep. Yeah, there's various reasons for it. Rick, we'll come back to this over the next couple of weeks
Okay,
because we'll have a lot of time to talk about this.
you bet.
Um, I'm of the mindset that they'll interview a lot of people. I'm not sure the job is Stoddard Niels. Um, I think if you told him 2 years ago that he's the succession plan for Rick Bonus, I think you've done yourself a disservice. I think you need to look at a wide net of candidates to make your decision. I think you need to get this one right. And I also think you need to get it right from a standpoint of you don't want this team to lose everything that Bonus has just spent the last 2 years building into this group either.
Yeah.
Because then you're really going backwards. But anyway, that's a discussion for another point. You kind of touched on this a little bit here. The draft lottery is about to start. So we'll keep an eye on this. I'll keep an eye on it, Rich. So I'll
Okay.
interject it every now and then. Um,
Well, we won't really talk about a Jets pick because they're not going to have anything in the next. They
no,
don't have a pick until the
there won't be, but it'll be the other Canadian teams that didn't make the playoffs. But we'll be keeping an eye on. And then there's San Jose get the number one overall pick. Where does Utah go in their first expansion? Well, not expansion draft, but like their first picks under the Utah brand as well. Just quickly wanted to touch on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know if you heard any sound coming out of Toronto yesterday after their defeat on Saturday in the seventh game. It just seems like the core to me, Rich, that knows that there's change coming, and it might be coming from up top.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think so because look, they're having a press conference. I think it's tomorrow, Friday, and in that press conference is Shanahan, Treleving,
and Pelly, the president of
Pelly.
the MLSE.
If they were getting rid of either Treleving or Shanahan, neither one of those would be in the press conference on Friday.
You think?
Yep. They're not going to have them at the press conference and then fire them the next day. You're not doing that.
Well, unless they hadn't been informed that they've been removed.
Yeah, well, but then they wouldn't be scheduled to appear at the meeting or at the press conference.
I guess. So do we draw that Sheldon Keefe is fired then? Because he wasn't invited?
Would you fire him? I don't know that I'd fire him. Like you can only make dinner from what's in the cupboard and what's in the fridge, right? It's that old
Fair enough.
sales line. If you give me chicken poop, that's what you get, right? If I only have chicken poop to choose from, that's what you're getting out of the oven, right? So, and I'm not saying that the Leafs are chicken poop. I'm not saying that was a parcel line. But my point is, Sheldon Keefe, he might have input. They might say, "Oh, we're thinking of signing this guy. What do you think?" He might put in his 2 cents, but he doesn't make the call. But to me, I agree with you. That team has got some really good players. They've got Riley, Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, Marner. And then you then you got the other guys, like the guys in the bubble, the Knees and the Domi and Yarncrook and whatever. But those are your top 5 guys. And you haven't figured out your goalie yet. You rotate from Wall to Samsonov to the other guy that was injured. It's just rocking through to Murray, right? Matt Murray, whether he plays next year or not, don't know. But the Leafs don't and they got good. They have some tough guys. Like I like their defense, like that Benoit. Some of those guys, I would love to see them in a Jets jersey, but I don't think he's talented enough. But his toughness and how he clears the front of the net.
Well, they played tough in games 5, 6, and 7.
They played playoff hockey. They were just very unfortunate that the Bruins got lucky on that. I mean, it was a beautiful goal that shot in by Lindholm and then the chase down by
Yeah,
Pasternak. That was a beautiful goal. So, but
it was. But what's done is done, and the reality is the Shana plan is 10 years old and hasn't worked.
okay, but now what do you do? And I'm saying the Leafs.
I don't know what you do.
Well, I'm telling you, the Leafs are in a similar situation to the Jets. That team, like Ray Ferraro, so funny, that team doesn't work, and it's true. It's the same core for the last 3 years that has fanned out. Same thing for the Jets.
Somebody wants you to be head coach.
Yeah, I know.
There it is.
No, it's not head coach. I got to be general manager, not head coach. But I'll be assistant to the GM. But I'm just saying, I agree with you. It's hard to do because you have guaranteed contracts, and it's not like in the old days you could just cut a guy and bring in guys. You got guaranteed contracts. You got players developing. You can't just bring in. There's a part of me that would say I would not be at all upset about the Jets going a lot younger in a lot of positions. Like, it wouldn't bother me at all personally to see Lambert, Heinola, Chibrikov.
Where do you put those players?
Colby Barlow, McGarty, put all 5 of those guys in the lineup.
Where do you put them in the lineup though? Considering your forward is kind of locked up based on the fact that.
Well, no, you don't. You got but then you have another small forward, Cole Perfetti, another guy.
Yep.
Great offensive ability, but did you see they couldn't play him in the playoffs because he gets pushed around? Yeah, he just gets knocked around, and then he comes in for a game that's not a playoff game, and he scores 3 points. But he can't play center in the NHL. He's too small and he's too soft. We got too many of those guys in this team.
And it's not like you did a straight up trade them for tougher.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying this team, the way it's currently designed, cannot win in the playoffs. And it's insanity in my mind to have the same team and go into the season next year with a new head coach and change nothing on the personnel. To me,
there will be changes. I assure you of that.
Well, I guess because there's UFAs, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it really it starts with trading Nikolai Ehlers or Kyle Connor, and the end of discussion.
Max, be careful.
And end of discussion. I mean, it starts with moving one of those 2 guys. For me, as well. Yeah. So draft lottery is starting. We'll keep an eye on that. As well, coming up. They said after the commercial break it'll start.
Sorry.
Rick, you want to touch on the rest of the first round?
We should probably. Yeah, we should go through these really quick. We only got 25 minutes, and then we got to make we got to talk about results, and then we got to make predictions.
Yep. Yeah. So go right ahead. You have the paper in front of you. What do you want to touch on?
Okay. Rangers and Capitals. Actually, this is the one thing I want to say is just overall, the 8 teams that advanced, in my mind, it wasn't a fluke. In my mind, they're the 8 best teams, and I agree with you. This second round could be as good and as competitive a second round as we've ever seen. There was no upsets from the first round. Like Washington did not upset New York. The Islanders didn't upset Carolina. Tampa Bay didn't upset Florida. Nashville didn't upset Vancouver. LA didn't upset Edmonton. I mean, the Jets and the Colorado, that could be a toss-up. Same thing with, the Knights and the Stars. But overall, these 8 teams are as good as if you pick any 8 teams to go through, they're great. And that's why for me, that this second round, I agree with you, could be even more competitive and more compelling than the first round. But that being said, Rangers over the Capitals 4 straight. No surprise. Right? Nope. You picked the Rangers in 5. I picked the Rangers in 5 because we thought we'd throw a bone to the Capitals, and they didn't need it because they weren't willing to chew on it. So in that series, we each got a point because we got Rangers right, but the number of games wrong. Carolina and the Islanders. Carolina wins in 5. Islanders got their 1 game on home ice. Okay.
In double overtime.
Yeah, in double overtime. Could have easily gone the other way.
And blew another lead.
Even though you picked the Islanders in 7, I don't know what you were eating that day that made your head all fuzzy. I don't know.
I don't know.
Much chocolate or something. I don't know, made you all fuzzy in the head. But anyway, New York Islanders, you picked them in 7. I happen to pick Carolina in 5. So Rick gets 2 points, Michael gets none. So in that series, well, I shouldn't crow too much because there's other series where you did okay. But it's actually amazing. In the first round here, I picked all the winners correctly for the first time, I think, ever in the Eastern Conference. Carolina, I got the number of games.
But the East for me was more cut and dry, Red.
Yeah, but I got still more points in the East than you did. So
Okay, fair.
but anyway, I got 2, you got 0 because I picked Carolina, you didn't. Florida over Tampa Bay. Surprised. I want to hear your opinion. I thought this series was actually really good. Like Tampa wasn't, I wouldn't say they were outplayed. I just think that I don't know if it's just age, opportunity. I mean, they played well, but I just think Florida was just
Florida
just
wanted it more based on last year, in my mind.
maybe, yeah. Florida won in 5. We each predicted Florida would win. You said in 7. I said in 6. So we each get 1 point for Florida over Tampa Bay.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought Tampa would put up more of a fight than they did and steal a couple of games, but that didn't happen.
No, I agree with you. I thought they would be a lot better at home. I actually really did. I thought they'd be a lot better at home, but yeah. Boston against Toronto. We've talked about it already.
Yep.
I told you, and I want to hear your comment on this because you have lots to say about Toronto.
Yeah.
After being down 3-1, see, and that's why I think Toronto and Sheldon Keefe and just that whole thing, being down 3-1, Matthews being sick, him coming back from being, or even not being 100%, Marner wasn't 100%, his knee or his ankle there, he couldn't turn with that high ankle sprain. Like they weren't great. And yet, even though I said, I don't think Toronto has it in them to hang with the Bruins, they came back and forced game 7 after winning games 5 and 6.
And overtime, game 7.
Yeah.
Probably were the better team in game 7. Probably.
Sure. And you could say, okay, the Bruins deserved it. They were up 3-1. They were better in the regular season. Okay, blah, blah. But you're right. Either way, that game, like with a lucky bounce or a bang off a shin or something, the Leafs could have easily
Come on, they
won.
almost scored at the buzzer there in the third period.
I know. So I'm just saying I was pleasantly surprised and actually shocked a little bit that the Bruins were able, or that the Leafs were able to hang with the Bruins as well as they did.
Well,
Especially
the
after
Leafs got to their playoff style game too late. If they start that in game 1, we're not even in game 6.
Well, I know.
Or maybe we're in game 6 with a much different outcome.
Yeah. You picked the Bruins in 7. I picked them in 6. And there you go, Mr. Garrell. You got 2 points and I got 1. So in the Eastern Conference, after the first round, you collected 4 of a possible 8 points. I collected 5 out of a possible 8. So I had a passing grade in the Eastern Conference in the first round. So
okay,
there you go.
Okay,
over to the West. The Stars versus the Golden Knights. You and I really like this series. You really, even though you picked Dallas, you thought the Golden Knights had a very legitimate chance of winning the series, right?
I did, and they did. And game 7, third period, 1 bounce. And I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Vegas kind of collapsed this series away when they won the first 2 on the road.
Think about that. They won
right
2 on the road, and then lost 4 of the next 5,
including 3 at home.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 2 at home. No,
2
3
at home.
They
won 1 game. Yeah. They won the 1 game. Like their third game was at home. Yeah. But yeah.
It's interesting because I was talking to Dallas fans that I know that I'm friends with, and I said, "Oh, we're in a world of trouble, 2-0 to Vegas." And I said, "I'd agree," but I think Jake Ottinger just made a much better series of it for himself after those first 2 games, and bounce here, bounce there, right? It's a
He had
2-1
a great
game.
game. Yep. Yeah, he had a great game 7. He played great. But remember when we talked, I said Ottinger last year too, the same thing. He had a great one round, and the next round he was just meh. And
Yep.
I'm sure that the Stars are hoping that that same Jake Ottinger that was there in the first round will be there in the second round against Colorado, because they're going to have him, because that series will be over in 4 games if they don't have a great net minding performance from him. So, but anyway, you and I each picked the Stars in 7, which looked very shaky after 2 games, and yet Dallas won in 7. So we each get a pair of points for that series. Okay, now here's the Stinktier.
Oh, no.
Here's Winnipeg versus Colorado. You and I both thought, based upon the regular season, the Jennings Trophy, 8-game winning streak going into the playoffs, the hottest team in the NHL for the last 2 weeks of the regular season, the Winnipeg Jets, nobody else. And we both picked Winnipeg, you in 6 games, me in 7. And what happened? Colorado in 5.
0.
Unbelievable.
Yep, it
I
happened.
still believe, and I'm going to say this on a radio show because I know you and I said it in private, and I think I sent you a text. This, for me, could be one of the greatest,
Yep.
I wouldn't say playoff collapses, but one of the greatest playoff surprises and disappointments in the last 20 years. Like, even the Bruins last year, who won the Jennings Trophy. No, not the no, they won the Jennings. They won they won the President's Trophy, right? But then got knocked out by Florida in the first round. They still were in game 7.
It was a Florida team, though, by admission, but underachieved in the regular season. But got
Correct.
in.
And they made it in at the last second in the last game of the play or the regular season. But I'm just saying, even still, Boston and Florida went to 7 games. And I think the Florida even won in 7th game in overtime, wasn't it? Or if it wasn't overtime, it was a close game. But I'm just saying, the Bruins were in it. So it wasn't an upset. But this, to be the 4th best team in the league and to completely collapse like that in the playoffs, I can't recall a team being so far off from where they were during the regular season to the playoffs. Like, so.
Okay, Rich, sorry to interject here. The first 2 picks in the draft lottery remain intact. St. Louis and Detroit.
Oh, so in their spots, you're saying at 16 and 15?
Yep. And then San Jose's picking 14. They have Pittsburgh's first round pick.
Okay.
Anyway, go on. I'll only interject if there's a change in the order.
So you and I, we picked the Jets. I don't know how much of that was heart versus head, but we each picked the Jets, and Colorado won in 5. So we each get a lump of coal for that series. Just a big egg. So, but anyway, Vancouver versus Nashville. I thought the Nashville Predators would give way more to Vancouver. Nashville is one of the hottest teams after the All-Star game, and for sure after the trade deadline.
Yep.
You're one of the hottest teams. They played, and they were playing that a defensive style. They rolled into Winnipeg a couple of times and easily beat the Jets by playing that defensive style and making it hard to score. I just thought Vancouver is going to have all sorts of trouble with them. And Vancouver, in spite of the fact that Elias Pettersson is still missing in action, he's still on the back of a milk carton, still don't know where he is. Vancouver wins the series in 6 games.
Quite honestly, they got their goaltending and timely goals.
And ran through their whole goaltending repertoire there, from Thatcher Demko down to Casey DeSmith, right? And now to Sheilov. Is it Sheilovs? Sheilovs. Yeah. Unbelievable. He's the minor league goaltender, and he looks like a Vezina candidate.
Yep. Well, it's interesting, right? And apparently Sheilovs is starting tomorrow.
Well, Thatcher Demko is not healthy though, right?
No, he's been ruled out for the second round.
Okay. And how about DeSmith? Is DeSmith available?
Unclear.
Okay, so he's not going to be backing him up. I didn't think so either. So, but that being said, You and I each thought Nashville would give Vancouver everything they had. You thought in 7 games, me in 6. Vancouver
Yep.
wins in 6. So we get a lump of coal for that one too.
Okay,
And then,
just a quick update
Yep.
to pit 8, everything remains intact.
okay. Okay. And then the final series, Edmonton and LA. You picked the Oilers in 6. I picked LA in 6. I really thought LA would give them a run for their money, especially with the acquisitions in the offseason and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And you thought the Oilers would do it in 6. The Oilers won in 5, which really surprised me. Really, really. I just thought LA would give them way more trouble on the defensive end, make it harder for the Oilers to get to the net and to score goals. And you have to give it to Edmonton. They've really addressed that issue of, the balanced scoring with Henrique and Kane and I'm just forgetting. So some of the guys on the 3rd and 4th line there that are scoring, they're adding there. It's I'm just surprised. So you picked the Oilers in 6. I got LA in 6. So you get a point and I get 0 because the Oilers won in 5.
I have some thoughts on this.
Okay.
I don't know what we saw from LA, and they have a Pierre-Luc Dubois problem.
Did you hear what the latest was afterwards on the blog? They're saying, buy out Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's only been 1 year into an 8-year, $8.5 million a year contract, and they want to buy him out already. Rob Blake comes out and says, yeah, that's not going to happen. We got to make the team better, that he plays better and make the team better around him and do what we can to get the best out of him. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying, hey, Pierre-Luc, let's get going. And it's the same thing, like I said to you, it's why Tortorella, it made him nuts that he said, get this guy out of here. He comes to Winnipeg. The Jets think they can change it. They have him for 2 years or 3, and he says, I don't want to sign here long-term. So they get a king's ransom for him and send him off to LA with a sign and trade. I tell you, getting rid of Pierre-Luc Dubois was that is the best plus by doing a minus that the Jets ever did, having those 3 guys plus a second-round draft pick. When you think about it now, Pierre-Luc Dubois, I don't know if you saw the last few games, he was 4th-line center for LA.
Yeah, you texted me that.
12 minutes, 13 minutes a game. He had 1 goal in 5 playoff games. 1 goal.
Yeah, it's... Sometimes all the surroundings don't change a guy,
And yet that guy, like Pierre-Luc Dubois, how he plays when he wants to play, that's the kind of guy you want in the playoffs. Like, that's what I'm saying. In fact, in my mind, I'd say, okay, in the regular season, yeah, okay. But playoffs, that's when he shines. And he was nothing. I just, whatever. I'm shocked. But
it's interesting, right? Because he was the pit. It was Auston Matthews, Patrick Laine, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, 1, 2, 3 in that draft.
Yep. And the Jets had 2, and then they had 3. Now they have neither. And you know what? Considering what 2 is doing and what 3 is doing, having Kupari, Iafallo, Velarde, and a second-round draft pick.
Can you just imagine
what those guys are?
Can you allow yourself to imagine if it just would have won the race after Auston Matthews?
I don't know. Yeah. Would Matthews want to play in Winnipeg long term? I don't know. I know he likes to, because
I don't know. I don't let my head go there. But
no, I don't want to. Listen, look at the Jets. The Jets could have had Wayne Gretzky if not for Michael Gabati losing a game of backgammon on an airplane back in 1979. Think about that. Gretzky could have been in a Jets jersey for 1980 to whatever it was, 1990 or 1995. But anyway.
And how that changes the course of history, right? To the couple Stanley Cups.
Correct. But that being said, now, when I add it all up after the first round, you and I still get a failing grade. Out of 16 points available, you and I each got 7. So it's just below a fail or a pass. So, but
yeah, the hard part with the number. The hard part with the number of games because the series were so short. A lot of them.
Exactly. Okay, now we got to go into the next round. We got 8 minutes. We got to rock through these babies. Okay, New York and Carolina. What do you like here and why?
Do you want me to give a pick or just an analysis of the series?
Give me the little 30-second intro.
Both teams but haven't lost a game in the playoffs. Well, until they played each other. We'll get to that in a minute.
No, that's not true. Carolina lost to.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now they lost their second. I think here, hang on, they're just gonna pull out the number 3 card here while I'm talking. See it, Anaheim. So the first overall pick is between San Jose and
Chicago,
Oh,
which
boy.
is exactly how it should be.
Yeah. And the order is played out exactly to a T right now.
Yeah, which is how it can happen sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, wait. The number 1 overall pick belongs to. I'll just turn the card over. San Jose.
Good.
Dead.
Yep.
And Mike Greer is one happy person. All right. That's that. No, I think this is one of the best series of the second round. I think it's 2 teams that deserve to be here. I think it's 2 teams that could easily represent the East in the Stanley Cup final, but only one of them is going to be able to do that. I'm looking at the Frederik Andersen and Ilya Shesterkin matchup for the goaltending and timely goals. I think both teams are 60 deep and 12 forwards deep. I expect this to be a long series, not withstanding game number 1, which has already been played.
Yeah.
You want my pick or?
I agree with everything you said. We got to roll. We got only 6 minutes left.
Yeah, that's fine. Your pick? My pick is the Rangers in 7.
Me too.
I think this one really had the potential to go 7 games. I picked the Rangers in 7.
Me too. Sorry. Okay.
Yep.
So we're not different. Okay.
The next series in the East is one that's already gotten underway. Boston against Florida. Last night, Boston gave up the game's only opening goal and scored 5 straight. But we've seen this movie before. Team running on game 7 adrenaline takes that into game number 1. Florida, to me, Florida's the deeper team. Although people reminded me Boston was the team that led that division most of the year. To me, I just wonder where Boston's secondary scoring is going to come from.
Well, we saw it yesterday.
Well, yeah, but they certainly didn't have a lot of it over 7 games against Toronto.
That is correct.
It just seemed like if it wasn't one of their big guys, scoring goals against the Leafs, that they were in tough. Truth be told, I still think they're in tough with this series. Florida just seems on a mission. Not game 1 withstanding.
Okay.
Even though I probably kind of tell it to them in the pit.
Yeah, it's okay. For me, I love this series too. I mean, the New York Carolina series was amazing. That first game was amazing. It'll be a great series. Florida and Boston last night. I think you're right. The Bruins are running on some adrenaline. Maybe Florida's a little bit, they got a wakey, eggs and bakey. So, have an extra espresso before the next game and wake up, and then away you go here. But I like the Panthers too. I just think they're amped. They are ready to play playoff hockey and to take it as far as they need to take it. For me, I like Florida in 7.
I had Florida in 6, and I said that before game 1, and I'm going to stay that way.
Okay. Okay.
Out west.
Dallas and Colorado. Another interesting series.
Get your popcorn.
Well, I will tell you this. I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to make a prediction of who's going to win, but I will tell you this, and this will be true. Colorado will not be pumping in 5 goals a game for 5 games straight against Dallas. That will not happen. I can make that. I would bet. I wouldn't say I would bet my house on it, but I would bet almost anything on it. Dallas will not let Colorado. In fact, I don't think Dallas will let Colorado score 5 goals in a single game. I don't think any one of the games, maybe an empty netter, like maybe if they're up 4-3 or something, okay, maybe they put in a 5th one. But scoring 5 regular time goals won't happen because Dallas knows how to play defense. Dallas plays playoff hockey. Dallas has 6 monster men playing on the back end who know how to play defense, know how to clear the front of the net. I think Colorado is going to have a much harder time pushing their will against the Stars than they did against the Jets. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think getting Vegas was the best possible matchup for Dallas. I think they're battle tested. This would be fair too to suggest this. I don't think Colorado was ultimately tested very much in the first round, and that's coming from a Jets fan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go straight into my pit. I'm pitting Dallas, and they're gonna do it in 6.
Okay, I've got Dallas as well, as you can see, but I got them in 7.
Okay, you got 3 7-game series.
Yep. Well, these are 3, and like I said, I could easily, just as easily, if somebody said, "Well, you can't pick the same team as the other guy in your pool," and you pick the Rangers, I could pick Carolina, the Bruins, and Colorado, and not feel bad of any of those picks because to me, they're that close and they're going to be that great a series. Okay, last series, Edmonton, Vancouver. What do you like here?
Probably the one I'm most excited for.
For what reason?
I'm intrigued. Can Edmonton continue to pile up the points on the power play? And can Vancouver's goaltending and defense hold up? And that is $1 million question. And I'm really intrigued on how you slow down McDavid, Draisaitl. Vancouver is going to need to score goals in this series. There will be a lot of pots directed at the net. Didn't seem like there were a lot of pots directed at the net. In that Nashville series, there was 12, 13, 14, 17 shots a game in that series. This will be a completely different series for Vancouver and one to telegraph what I'm thinking, but I don't think it's going to go very well.
I would agree for Vancouver, very different from what they had with Nashville, but I think for Edmonton, very different from what they had against LA. I just think LA could not score against them. I think Vancouver can score. And if Elias Pettersson wakes up, I think Vancouver can, I think they can compete more so with the Oilers than the Kings did. That is my opinion.
Yep.
So who do you like? Or is it my turn to pick first?
Is it? Yeah, I picked first on 2 already. So
okay. I like the Oilers in 6.
Are you gonna? I like the Oilers in 5.
No, wait. Are you not going to look at what your significant other thinks? You're not going to line up with her?
Nope.
Okay. I just want to give you they have all the information before you make the decision. Okay.
No.
Okay. So you like Edmonton and what?
I did Edmonton in 5.
Oh boy. Okay.
I listen. I don't think that Vancouver's going to be able to keep Edmonton off the power play, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep the puck out of the net.
Okay.
And that power play, if it continues to run rampant, good luck stopping that.
Okay.
Why? You seem disappointed.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're all selecting the teams that we thought.
So what are you watching for? What are you watching for this week? Just really quickly.
Oh, I'm. You know what? Now that the Jets are out, I don't have to cheer for anybody. I just have to enjoy the games because I don't really. I mean, yeah, we picked the teams, but like I said, if Carolina, Boston, Colorado, and Vancouver won these series, which would be the exact opposite of the 4 picks that I made, if those 4 teams went into the,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would I be surprised? No. And would I say, oh, that's disappointing? No, because Carolina versus Boston would be an amazing semifinal. And Colorado versus Vancouver would be pretty entertaining too. So
yeah. No, I agree. That's the way she rolls sometimes, right?
Yep. Well,
all right. Well, we'll be back next week. That's Monday, I believe. Yeah, that's Monday. stay tuned. For Red Petty, I'm Michael Dell saying thank you so much for watching, and we will be back with you next week. Good night from Winnipeg. Thank you for all the questions, comments. Those that didn't leave anything, there were a lot of people watching on X today, which is very interesting. For Red Petty, I'm Michael Dell saying so long. Thank you for watching tonight from Winnipeg. Hey, big game in the WHL tonight. Moose Jaw, Matthew Savoy taking on the Saskatoon Blades in Game 7 at the Hostel Center tonight. Also going to make an appearance on Late Night with Smitty sometime tonight to talk about the latest CFL news, among other happenings.
Chad Kelly suspended half a season.
9 games minimum.
A professional football player.
Yep, not wrong there. Anyway, good night from Winnipeg. Thank you so much for watching.